as I was thinking about like retiring from skiing or returning to skiing, people would always say this. They're like, oh, but you're young and you feel good and you've got time. Like, why not? You know, they would always say that. Like, you have the opportunity, so do it. That sounds good on the surface, but it actually, if you think about it, it rubs me the wrong way because I think about it the opposite. Why would I do something just because I can? I've got to like love this thing and I have to be emotionally invested in this thing. It has to bring me more than just like checking a box because I can. You know, I thought about that a lot. People are like, oh, dude, if you can keep going, like, why not? I'm like, because the way I'm currently doing it is making me miserable. I got really real with myself and I was like, I'm not doing anything for the wrong reasons or just because I can. It can't be for money. It can't be for holding on to any glory or like milking a career or anything like that. It can't be for like trying to maintain this lifestyle that I love, you know, like it has to be because I love skiing.
Yo, what's up everybody? It's your boy Sleep here, and I got my boy Grizz, and we're back here with another episode of the Thrash Talk podcast. This week we got another burner. Grizz, tell us about it.
Hell yeah, I'm super stoked to introduce our boy Nick Goepper. He's a 3-time Olympic medalist in slopestyle and a 6-time X Games medalist, 4 golds, 2 silvers. We're so lucky to get to link up with him after his first Grand Prix appearance in pipe, right before X Games, right before his last World Cup appearance, where he took bronze. So super stoked we got to meet up with Nick. I absolutely love the guy. I've known him for about 10 years. He's an absolute legend. Let's go.
The dude's crushing it, man. He's from the Midwest. He's bringing jeans back in style on the mountain, all the steez. Dude, he did the whole interview in his bathtub. I'm stoked to bring this to you. I'm stoked for y'all to see it, and we'll see you out there. You.
Absolutely.
You.
We first met at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs some years ago, and I didn't even know that Paralympic snowboarding existed. And thank you so much for opening my eyes to all the Paralympics and all the cool stuff you guys do. I'm joining you today from my bathtub at my condo in Frisco. My body is kind of sore. I skied half pipe all morning, so.
Yeah, dude, I could only imagine like going from slopestyle to half pipe. That's got to be a huge transition. I would definitely want to get into that. Sleep is here as well. I did have kind of something that I wanted to chat with you about, and it was, dude, that chicken parm that you made for us a little while back. First of all, thank you for inviting me over to dinner. It was amazing. I didn't know you were such a good cook. Like, is that your own recipe? Is that a family recipe? How did you learn to cook? Is this something that you have always loved to do, or you had to figure out as an adult?
So I'm kind of like I actually don't like cooking, but it's like I don't like homework. But once I start doing it and actually invest myself in it, and you kind of get in the flow, it's super fun and you love it. And you're like, dude, I can actually do really good at this homework or really good at this meal. And I love getting people together. I love like getting, a bunch of friends together and just creating an environment for different people to meet each other or whatever. Like, I don't know, I kind of like being a host sometimes, so that's when the cook comes out. But that was like the easiest recipe, like first search result on Google from like allrecipes.com or something. But thanks for, I'll take some credit.
Bro, you made it. I mean, it was amazing. I was like, oh my God, Nick can cook. I never knew this about you. So I was fully impressed and like fully pumped as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Dude, you're the man. You're the man. So yeah, let's dive into it. Like you said, I kind of opened your eyes a little bit to the Paralympic world. You and I met at the Olympic Training Center. What was that? The summer 2014 or 2015, something like that?
Yes, it was. I don't know the year,
Okay.
but we did meet around that time.
Yeah. So you and I have a couple things in common. We both of our sports had their inaugural debut for you for the Olympics for slopestyle ski, me for para snowboarding in Sochi. Do you remember like hearing about your sport getting in and like what that was like? Can you take us back to that time?
Sure. So the time when slopestyle and halfpipe skiing got added to the Olympics was around 2012, and there had been a lot of talks about it, for years and years, especially after like snowboard pipe got put in and like, what was it, 1998 or something, and then second time around in 2002, and then wow, in Torino, and so it was always kind of like, why don't we have skiing in there too? There was always that question, but my the pinnacle of like the sport for me was always the X Games, and that's the only thing I cared about. And so when the Olympics like finally got added to the program, it was kind of like, all right, sweet. Another event, that's kind of how it felt. I know for probably a few people it was like this crazy thing, but we had already had like an awesome established tour. Like we had the Dew Tour, we had multiple X Games, we had Opens. Like the sport was super healthy at that time, and so the Olympics was kind of seen as just an addition to everything else we had going on.
Okay. Yeah. So like for us, we were shooting for Pyeongchang originally. We were told no multiple times for Sochi. And about 2 years out, I got a phone call one night saying, "Hey, congratulations, your sport's going to make its debut in Sochi. Better get your shit together and get ready." And so, yeah, so it was like a big moment for me because we were told no so many different times for Sochi.
Yeah.
And, likewise, you and I also have something else in common. You and your team swept the podium at the inaugural debut, and so did me and my team. What was that like for you? I know it was a bronze medal, but I always say you can't have a sweep without a bronze.
That's a nice way to put
it. Well, I was a bronze medalist also, so I got to find something there.
Yeah, no, that was cool. I get asked that question a lot because, I mean, like the Olympics in terms of the media is so on another level than any other event. Like it's the only competition at the time where anybody cared about national pride. I mean, in like the other events we had at the time, nobody really cared where you were from. It was like, are you good at this and can you rip? So I think all of us had that mentality at the Olympics. We're like, hey, like we're just with a bunch of guys from all over the world and we're just doing this competition. And all of a sudden, like when 3 Americans happen to stand on the podium, which was very common at lots of other events in the years leading up to that, the mainstream media made it a massive story. And so then we kind of got like swept up in this American sweep hype, which like I had to like learn the significance of that because I was kind of like, oh, okay, but then it hadn't happened since 2002 and then like another like 40 years before that, and like I'm really into history, so I love like the historical aspect of it, like making history. That's super cool, and the Olympics kind of has its own little place in history. So yeah, it caught us by surprise, and we're like, sweet, we get to go on Dave Letterman and talk about this now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get nearly as much attention for ours, but it's probably because we did ours like 2 weeks after you guys did, and so they're like, oh, it's just Americans cleaning house. What else is new? Or whatever. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I remember watching it, and I was like I didn't even know you back then, but I was like, holy shit, this is so awesome. Like I'm a history buff as well, so I always like those history significance type questions, just because it doesn't happen very often. Did you guys normally like kind of sweep podiums at like World Cups and Grand Prix and stuff like that, or is that like the first time all 3 of you were on the podium together?
Not all. I mean, like at that time there was 10 Americans that could have gone to the Olympics and gotten on the podium, but they only allow 4. So there was a lot of other events. I mean, we and the Canadians like invented free skiing, so it was not uncommon for us to dominate all the other events. That's a shame you guys didn't get more attention. Like I hate to hear that, and I wish you guys did. I just had an idea. You guys should race snowboard cross, but you should show your leg.
Yeah, some
like
guys
on
do
TV,
actually.
so people can see it and they understand.
Yeah, well, some people have all of their limbs, and they're just kind of in that hodgepodge category with me. But some guys do show it, and I don't know if it's to kind of show it off or if it's just ease of access to, say, the shocks and stuff that are in their knees and stuff. Mine isn't that impressive. I have, I'm a below the knee amputee, so the socket, you're kind of like, is that a knee brace? What's going on there? Whereas like someone like my teammate Noah or Mike Schultz, those guys, they're missing their knee, and so they have this crazy, like, it almost looks like a drill rig apparatus attached to their body, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I always see you guys as rigs when we go to the parties and events and stuff, and it's always like extremely impressive. And yeah, dude, it's just badass. I have so much respect for what you guys do.
No, I appreciate that.
So you guys did not meet prior to Sochi, but Sochi was the first time you guys kind of competed alongside each other. I understand, Keith, you're a week later. How does that work? You guys, being ski and snowboard, you don't train together, but I'm sure, Keith, you've trained with able-body snowboard, border cross people, correct? And have you also trained with adaptive, Nick, as well, or is that not the case in your sport?
Off snow, yeah. So they just transitioned the Paralympic Training Center for Snow Sports to Park City, Utah, where the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Center of Excellence is, which is, I think it's awesome because we have a totally new crowd in there. Like, all the Paralympians are in there working out, and different personalities, different stories, and it makes us way more interesting. And I'm a huge fan. On snow, like, we have different venues and stuff, so we don't cross paths as much. But I just think, like, crossing paths with different people is super important, not just for sport, but for everything. I mean, like, I loved meeting Keith and Mike at Colorado Springs because, again, like, it just opened my eyes up to the opportunities that the Paralympians have in the U.S. through, like, Paralympic sport, and just the attitudes and the will to like make a shitty situation like not define your life but overcome it and all of that. It's inspiring. I'm just a huge fan of, like, meeting different people from different backgrounds. Call it diversity.
That's exactly what it is, man. Diversity of thought, diversity of background, man. That'll make a community stronger. That'll make a team stronger, man. So that's really cool to hear. Keith, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I was just going to say, yeah, I always appreciate getting to cross paths with other Paralympians or Olympians alike. And, Nick and I have crossed paths quite a few times at competitions, Dew Tour and X Games primarily. Mm-hmm. It's funny because even though I don't compete at X Games anymore, my discipline, my border cross is no longer a part of it. I still go because I live here in town. But I've ran into Nick so many times at those types of events, and I will say, like, you run into a lot of pro skier and pro snowboarders. There's very few that are nearly as kind as Nick and willing to outgoing and actually genuinely care about your day. Every time I run into him, he's like, dude, how's your day going? Because I'm like, bro, how's your day going? He's like, no, how's your day going? What are you up to? How was your run? And I'm like, it was sick. How was yours? So I always appreciate that about Nick. He's always, like, down to chat it up a bit and just shoot the shit and not necessarily tell you about his day, but wants to know about yours. And it's not as common as you think it would be.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Keith. There's a book about this. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I recommend it.
Love the plug. I have a question for you, and I know you've talked a lot about your childhood, small mountain. Yeah. I'm from northwestern Pennsylvania. I grew up snowboarding on a Peak and Peak was the resort. 400-foot vertical, tiny, probably very similar size to yours. I had a crew that I rolled with that kind of made it fun for me. I grew up snowboarding with a group of guys. I know you've done trampoline work. You know, we used to strap our snowboards in, get on the trampolines together, flip, spin. Did you have a crew that you rolled around with as a kid, or was it you just gung ho? Man, I'm doing my best to become the best skier I can, and it's me against the world. Or did you have like kind of a little group you rolled with?
I love that you just said that, me against the world. It's been a bit of both my whole career. I always I have ever since I was born, I have very, very short attention span and very little patience. And if I want to do something, I want to do it now. And I'm gonna do it now. And I'm sure my friends and my girlfriend want to kill me sometimes, but that has translated over into sports and everything I do. Where if I want to try a trick, I'm gonna try now. I'm not sorry, I'm not gonna wait for you to get to the lift. So I'm not gonna. So it kind of has bad side effects too. But I roll by myself a lot, and then I also have a crew that I float in and out of frequently. So it's when I'm totally tunnel vision focused, I'm usually do my own thing. I'm solo. But if I'm kind of more relaxed, want to just have a good time, I'll kind of roll with some friends or some younger kids that I mentor. But I just wanted to go, fast, 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 fast. And none of my friends or even family could keep up with my pace. Even though if we were at the hill for 4 hours, I very well could have skied and done the amount of tricks I wanted to do in that 4 hours and relaxed while doing it. But I wanted to do all my shit in an hour and a half, just because that's when my energy was high. That's strike while the iron's hot. And I don't know. Sometimes I think it might rub people the wrong way. If I'll just ski by or just kind of got my headphones in, I'm just looking down or whatever, trying to kind of stay. Which I've gotten a lot better with lately and trying to be a little more open and a little more of a social butterfly. But yeah, I'd say a little bit of both. I'd say I definitely wasn't a completely isolated, and I wasn't a complete the life of the party either. I was just somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, sure, man. Great answer. And I think leading into that, dude, where you grew up skiing, it was hucking tricks. It wasn't riding that backcountry. You didn't have that ability to get out there and just flow. Do you do that now? Do you what's your favorite backcountry spot? Is there a mountain? Is there a mountain you go to? You throw the headphones in and you just cruise.
Yes. So my favorite backcountry spot, I have a few. I just like my backyard in Salt Lake City, the Wasatch. I love Idaho. Idaho is really great. California is really great. But I'm usually on my snowmobile. Not gonna lie. I got into this 4 or 5 years ago. I started riding snowmobiles, and I fell in love with the sport of snowmobiling. Everybody always asks me if I take my skis with me, and I'm like, no, I can't. I just love the activity of snowmobiling and motorsports so much. I never had one growing up, and I haven't had a dirt bike or anything. But once I got introduced to a throttle, I was holy shit. I was so addicted, and then I was okay, I don't even want to ski while I'm on this machine, but also it kind of gives me a nice break from skiing at the same time, and I get to get out in the mountains and enjoy the peacefulness of winter and the snow and everything, but I don't have to be strapped into my boots thinking about and don't get me wrong, I love skiing. Actually what I started doing this year is ski touring, and that's been super fun. And it's also a way to just get away from the insanity of the resorts in Utah these days, just with tourists and all that. So I'm not the backcountry hucking cliffs guy. I like the competition side of things. But dude, I love getting out the backcountry in different ways. So
yeah, dude, love it, man.
Yeah, I cannot agree more about the whole throttle thing. When I was younger, I had buddies who had mopeds and stuff, and we go to jump them off of stupid dirt jumps and get hurt and stuff. And I loved it back then, but as I've gotten older, I've really fallen in love with, just twisting a throttle, even if I'm just out ripping my, my little Nightster or something and just
Mm-hmm.
cruising one of the canyons. There's something about just raw power at your fingertips that
Mm-hmm.
you can't really explain, right?
Yeah, I got a motorcycle. I've got an Indian FTR. I got it last year, and people ask me how it is, and I can't possibly say how awesome it is to like be to totally like expose on like an iron horse, like flying up a canyon or something. It's if you're not that kind of person, you're not that kind of person. But if you are, it's like, dude, it's so unreal. Like I love it. I mean, even now, like I ride now in Salt Lake City. Like I'll make sure I warm up my tires really good, but I'll go out and just go to the grocery store just because I love the freedom of it. It's so fun. So.
Yeah. Are you a helmet or no helmet guy?
I'm a helmet guy for sure. I know
Yeah.
it's not mandatory in Utah. I don't think it is, but yeah, bugs, dude, they'll get you. They just fly in your eye. I guess you wear glasses, but
Dude, one day I was headed to the coffee shop like down the street from my house. This was back when I still lived in Utah. And I was like, oh, I'll just jump on my motorcycle and go down there real quick. And I'm going down this like residential road. I'm probably doing like 25, 30 miles an hour, nothing crazy. And out of nowhere, this bumblebee just whap right in my eye. And I mean, I
yeah,
saw it at the last second, closed my eye, and it didn't sting me, but I looked like I got punched in the face by Mike Tyson. And ever since then, I'm like, helmet and eye protection always,
yeah, for sure. Yeah, a helmet has so much more value than just like a catastrophic accident. It's like comfortable, it's less loud, like I don't know, and all that. Like it's great.
Yeah, actually, the noise cancellation of the helmet is actually pretty rad at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Um, Dude, so obviously we want to talk to you about this whole slopestyle to superpipe transition and everything. Not sure how much you want to get into it, but I always love to talk about mindset and that sort of stuff with folks. And you and I have a similar mindset in a lot of ways, like that whole ADHD, like go, 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 go. I want it now. Like,
Mhm.
so I love connecting with people and just seeing what makes them tick. And I'm so curious, like we talked about it a little bit, but like what was going through your head after Beijing, and like what made you kind of make this decision to kind of flip this switch where like I'm done with slopestyle? Can I ask that?
Yeah, for sure. So frankly, I was pretty over it after Beijing. Like the year leading up to that, I was like, I know how to work hard and I know how to get shit done, and that's all I felt. I kind of felt like that's what I was doing, like leading up to that event. And that's not you can't sustain that feeling for very long before bad things start to happen. So I knew that I wanted some sort of break. So after Beijing, I literally didn't ski the rest of the winter. I probably rode my sled like 40 days. And I was like, okay, like I made it to the end of winter without skiing. And I'm fine with that. That's kind of weird, but okay. So that summer, like I think I skied like a week at Hood. And then the winter started approaching, and I thought, dude, I don't feel the same feeling of like, man, I want to get on snow, like skiing. Like I didn't have that love for it that I have, had when I was a kid. And I thought it was really odd. I started to kind of question myself a little bit. And then it was all of a sudden it was December, and like the comps are rolling around, like snow starting to fall, and I still like didn't give a shit, to be frank. And so I thought that I just kind of was very analytical. I looked at my career. I was like, I've had a pretty good run, and I made a very like pretty dry, like analytical decision. Basically, it was very like unemotional. I'm done, because I feel like that is how I respect myself and my sponsors and my supporters the best, is if I don't leave anybody hanging and have some closure and let them know how I'm actually feeling. So I emailed everybody and I was like, hey, I'm not going to compete this year. I'm done. And we're just going to see what happens and see like where my feelings take me, basically. And some people were down with that. Most of them were like, okay, like you're not a valuable marketing asset anymore. Goodbye. and I totally expected that. So most of my sponsors disappeared, and yeah, again, I probably had like 50 days on my sled that winter, just completely like having a lot of fun, but also like escaping in a way. Um, you know, like it's kind of easy to get into some sort of addiction or something like that and like completely use it as like a back door to like escape reality. And that's kind of what I was doing in a way. But also like trying to stay level headed and decide what the future would hold for me. So there was one event I was obligated to do through Red Bull in Austria that February of the year following the Olympics. And I went there completely unprepared to compete or ski at a high level, but I just was like, I got to do this for my contract. So I went there and participated. And while I was there, there was this quarter pipe in the event, and I kept hitting it over and over again. And I was like, damn, this is like really fun, actually. This isn't a jump. It's not a rail. It's nothing like in a slopestyle course. It's a quarter pipe. And a half pipe is two quarter pipes. And then I started thinking about half pipe, and I was like, dude, what if I did half pipe? Oh my God. And I started thinking about like the story of it, right? And I was like, dude, what if Goepper unretires, goes to the Olympics for half pipe, gets another medal? He's the American sweetheart, end of story. Like, I was like, that would be sick, right? And so I started kind of thinking about it more, which led to some more experimenting in the half pipe later. But I want to make a point in that people, as I was thinking about like retiring from skiing or returning to skiing, people would always say this. They're like, oh, but you're young and you feel good and you've got time. Like, why not? You know, they would always say that. Like, you have the opportunity, so do it. And that sounds good on the surface, but it actually, if you think about it, kind of, it rubs me the wrong way because I think about it the opposite. Why would I do something just because I can? I've got to like love this thing, and I have to be emotionally invested in this thing. It has to bring me more than just like checking a box because I can. You know, I thought about that a lot. People are like, "Oh, dude, if you can keep going, like, why not?" I'm like, because the way I'm currently doing it is making me miserable. So after that trip to Austria and like starting to kind of think about half pipe, I was like, I got really real with myself, and I was like, I'm not doing anything for the wrong reasons or just because I can. You know, any decision I make moving forward has to be for the right reason. And I still am thinking about this today, even like while I'm skiing up there. I'm like, am I doing this for the right reasons? It can't be for money. It can't be for holding on to any glory or like milking a career or anything like that. It can't be for like trying to maintain this lifestyle that I love, you know, like it has to be because I love skiing. And so I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but my story continues, and I'm happy to keep elaborating.
No, I love it. I mean, I'm the same way. I'm all or nothing. Like, if I'm into something, I'm into it. If I'm not, I'm like, I push it as far away from me as humanly possible. But also, like, if I'm not into something, I don't just want to do it, like you said, just to do it. I want to do something because I love it, you know? And I've actually kind of fallen out of love with snowboarding, and I'm in the process of falling back in love with it over the last couple of seasons. One of my big goals was like, I don't want to be burnt out. I'm still competitive. I still love the competitive side, but I don't necessarily always love snowboarding. And how can I kind of reignite that fire? And so I've, you know, go out and get my pow turns first and foremost, spend as much time on the snow with my little one as I can, and just like enjoy that process. And that's my favorite thing, actually, is going out with my 4-year-old and just ripping the bunny hills. I'm like, this kid's fucking crushing it. Like, I love that. You know, and recently I got into coaching over here in Aspen, and coaching the Groms and up to, you know, the U16 kids that want to learn more about racing. So passing along the torch, and all of these little pieces have really invigorated my love for it again. And cool. I just love that, like, you're that guy that's like, I don't want to just do it to do it. I want to do it because I love it. And I'm so stoked that you found another avenue where you're not actually tied down to sponsors or anything right at this point. You can be yourself, authentic Nick. You know, I've been loving the Instagram and social media stuff that I've been seeing on there, because I'm like, now that's Gep. Like, the Goepper I know, you know, like I
Yeah.
know you in a slightly different light, right? So I'm super fortunate to have that and see that finally coming out to the rest of the world, right?
Yeah, it was skiing. It's almost like it's like a girl. Like it's like you fall out of love with this girl, but then you're like, wait, I I actually think I do love this girl, but how do I like fall back in love with her? How do I how do I like manufacture that love, you know? It's like, yo, this should just be a feeling. Like it's just, it's like it's like that weird thing between like, especially when you do something ski or snowboard or like do something and almost, it becomes a job. You do it a shit ton, and it's like it's more than just a feeling anymore. It does have some sort of calculated approach that, like you're actually inspiring me with like coaching and hanging out with the Grom and your kid and all that stuff. Like, because sometimes like viewing something through a different lens or multiple lenses really helps you to recognize why you started loving it in the first place. There's a really great documentary about like some of the greatest athletes of all time. It features Wayne Gretzky, Pele, and Jerry Rice, and they talk about, for some of these great athletes, one thing that they all have in common is that they have a lot of time throughout their like youth and professional careers of unstructured play. So no coaches, no boundaries, no teams, nothing. Just doing something on your own and forcing yourself to creatively figure out how to do it with zero structure. And that really speaks to me because that's what I did when I was a kid. Like I didn't grow up with anybody telling me how to do it. I just did it and figured it out, and that really got those creative juices flowing, and is part of why I love this so much. So
Yeah, I love the concept of unstructured play. And like, what I love about working with the kiddos is they're just kids. They're just out there. Like, I sit on the lift with a different group or different group of kids that are within the group. Last Sunday, we had 14 in this little micro camp I was hosting. And so I tried to make it a point to jump on the lift with different kids throughout the day and just ask them, like, why do you love snowboarding? And their answers were so just authentic. And most of the time it was like, I just like being out in the mountains with my friends, or I'm just out hanging out having fun.
sure.
Like, what's your favorite aspect of snowboarding? Some of them were like, one kid was just like, border cross, border cross, border cross. And I'm like,
nice.
okay, I get that. Like, if that's what
Yeah.
you love about it, bro, we're going to make you a racer, like straight up. If that's not what you love about it, let's cater to that. And along the way, let's put some fundamentals in there to make you the best shredder that you can be, that can get you in and out of trouble. You know what I mean? Especially out of trouble, like when something goes south, right? Our
Yeah.
biggest goal with that program is just making kids better humans. If they become rippers at the end of the day, that's a bonus. But hearing their authentic answers of like, I just like being outside, or I like sliding on snow, I love playing with my friends, that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, like it makes me feel young all of a sudden. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's why I started snowboarding, was
Yeah.
because like, I started on skis, and this was back in the long straight days, long straight ski days, and snowboarding looked a little more fun. And to be honest, most of the kids around where I grew up were like alpiners, and I didn't really get along with them. They were kind of dicks to me. So like
You're telling your age.
I know. If the gray doesn't give it away, right? But I ended up getting introduced to it by a buddy who was a snowboarder, who was like, do you want to go, do you snowboard? And I was like, well, I ski. And he's like, bro, you got to try snowboarding. And so, I tell a story all the time, but I saved up my first 2 paychecks and got a snowboard and went out and ripped with him. And I had so much fun. And I was like, holy crap, this is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm into, and that's, I ditched school to go snowboarding. I got in a lot of trouble because of snowboarding, but like I was doing all of that stuff because it's what I love to do. And so being around these kiddos, I guess, bringing it back, they're kind of reminding me that on a day-to-day basis, even when I'm coaching them in their training. It's like, we have to have this fine balance of like structure, dynamics, and all this other stuff, but also I want them to have fun. And these kids, most of them are freestylers, and they're like, can we hit the Makaha jumps today? And I'm like, yeah, but you're going to absorb them the first 5 times. And then I'm just going to let you loose. And we had 4 kids that couldn't make it to the landing on the second jump, which is pretty decent size for, a 12-year-old at this point in the season. And by the end of the day on Sunday, every last kid was sending it to the sweet spot, and a little deep even. I was like, hell yeah, this is what's up. But being around them just keeps me young and keeps me enjoying it as well and seeing their stoke. So
for sure.
But I definitely get it. I definitely understand. Sorry, long-winded. Sleep. You look like you got something to jump in there with.
No, you're good, man. I love the enthusiasm that you get for it, and I love that you're bringing it back, man. You're bringing that love of snowboarding back through your son through this, just like you said earlier, Nick. I wanted to go back to Nick, something you mentioned earlier about sponsorships and how that kind of changed. What are you going to do differently this time around? As you're looking to bring on new sponsorships, or as you've brought on new sponsorships, are you going to kind of change your mindset there from a sponsorship perspective?
100%. So throughout the first half of my career, I made enough money and invested enough so that I can survive right now and like pay for my career for at least a couple of years or a few before like shit really would hit the fan. But the last like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, I just got like a really sour taste in my mouth for sponsors, and just being like just partnering with brands, and not had nothing to do with the brands. It had everything to do with me and my basically like apathy. And I was comfortable. Like I was making enough to travel the world and pay for everything, and like if I worked hard and got on a podium or something, I could make a bonus to invest in something or whatever. But I began to start to fall into this trap of like working with brands that like there was one particular brand that I just got so tired of, like the product itself. I was like, I thought this product was cool a few years ago, but I never am going to use this product. It's like it's a pain in the butt, and I don't want to tell people to use it because I don't personally have zero use for it in my life, and I can't relate at all. So, and that wasn't every sponsor, but just like one or two here and there, and I just felt like I was like just doing something for the literal worst reason to do it. And so moving forward, now that I sort of have a little more confidence to express myself, people have been asking me like, dude, when are you gonna like get some sponsors or like reach out to sponsors or whatever? And I'm like, listen, I want to partner with somebody. If it's not making my own thing, it's partnering with a brand who wants to invest in me, who wants to partner with Nick Goepper. Because I'm not interested in being a spokesman for something just for a paycheck. Of course, if the paycheck is big enough. I mean, I'm just kidding. Sort of. Everybody, there is that price though that can be life changing that we all have to think about. Okay, that is a reality.
100%.
But like honestly, like unless someone's going to drop a life changing amount of money in my bank account to promote like some like tobacco brand or something, I'm partnering with brands that want to be a part of me and what I represent, what I'm doing. And I'm willing to hold out as long as possible and literally spend the last of my saved dollars to make that happen. And I think that level of confidence is going to get me there. So.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, everyone has a price, right? But at the end of the day, it's like stick to your guns, stick what's true to you, and enjoy the moment for what it is and do it for the right reasons. Again, like you're not out there trying to promote brands. You're trying to be Nick Goepper and enjoy this next facet of your career. What changed once you had to kind of relook at finances and stuff? Did it throw you down this like rabbit hole where you were like, oh shit, I don't really have money coming in, I gotta watch how I spend it? Or how did that all come about for you?
Exactly. I'm a huge, and not everybody's like this. My girlfriend is not like this at all, but I'm a huge believer in baptism by fire. Like you you would be surprised at what you are capable of when you have to. And I've never been more confident in expressing my personality, and I've never been more confident in my finances until I literally didn't have a skiing career anymore, and I didn't have anybody paying me a dollar. And it's funny, like when you get to that place where it all goes away, and you're like, "Holy shit! I have to like look at myself in a mirror and create." I'm super big into economics, like create value. Like before, I had no idea what my value was. I was skiing and like I would, do good in a competition or something and be like, okay, like I guess I'm worth 92 points. But like this last, year and a half or so has been such a insane like eye opener for me, to understand like who I am and just like add more meaning to what I'm doing. Because for at a certain point you stop like just doing something like for the love of it is awesome, but then you start to want to involve more meaning, and that's something that I'm really passionate about these days. Is I'm in my infant stages of like how I think I can positively contribute to the sport of skiing and people that look up to me in general. But yeah, I mean, we all grew up with like idols and superstars that we just loved and changed our lives, and I hope I can be somebody like that person to somebody like a kid.
Speaking of that, you touched on it a little bit earlier. You're mentoring young skiers. How has that affected you? I mean, I imagine that's mentorship is huge for both the mentee and the mentor, and it's really cool to see or hear you doing that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've had a little brother. Well, yeah, I have a little brother, and he's awesome, and he's a little punk ass, and I love getting him under my shoulder, giving him a noogie and all that. But also I love setting an example for my brother and like leading a life that I would hope would impact him in a positive way. I've always loved skiing with people who are younger than me, for a couple of reasons. One is that like this is I think unfortunate sometimes, but I have like very competitive personality, and like I hate competing like with my friends in a way because it just gets in the way of our relationship. And so if I ski with somebody who's like younger than me, who's like on the come up, like I don't have to compete with them and I can just enjoy skiing with them. And it's so, and the other thing is that kids have, they're like, they're not corrupted yet. Like it depends on how old they are. If they're like sub 18, like usually they don't care about money, they don't care about girls yet, they don't like care about anything but just loving skiing or snowboarding or skateboarding or whatever it is, and they have an infinite supply of energy. So when you hang around kids like that, like nobody's talking about drama. All they care about is skiing, and they never get tired. And surrounding myself with that kind of environment, I think has been so good for me, because it keeps me going, and then I can just like teach these kids lessons I've learned, and also kind of haze them in a nice way.
There you go. There you go, man. Go ahead, Keith. I was gonna derail, but I think you want to keep.
Yeah, I'm going to derail as well. I was just going to say, do you constantly have the debate polls over no polls with them, or is that just like just at the media? Yeah.
I mean, like if a kid was going to ask me that, and I'd be like, bro, if this is what you're worried about, like you're worried about the wrong things, bro. Like go to a flip.
Sure. Yeah. Let me see you dub before you wonder what's in your hands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dude, you hit on skateboarding, man. And I saw your setup. You still got the mini ramp set up in the backyard, man?
I'm in between backyard evolutions. So I sold the mini ramp to some rollerblade homies down the street, and I don't have it right now. But I will always have. It was a sick mini ramp. It was like 5 foot by like 20 or 25 feet wide. It was insane, dude. We sessioned that on like I skated it, I bladed it, and I BMX'd it. Like we did everything. And I'll always have a ramp at my house or multiple, always like mandatory.
Yeah, that was a dope mini ramp, man. I was watching some videos of it, man. It looked pretty sick. Yeah, and I didn't realize you skated as well. So it looked like, yeah, your transition game was strong, man. I liked it.
Yeah, dude. I love it. Anything that slides or has wheels or has a motor, like I'm into it. And it's a great community.
Yeah, that's amazing, dude.
On the skate and blade side, did you went down and competed? Was it South America or something like that? You competed on blades a little while back.
Yeah, I did the World Championships of park rollerblading in Buenos Aires, Argentina last summer.
Sick. And how was that experience? Like, how awesome was that? Was it sick?
Yeah, dude, it was so awesome, actually. My parents went, and they were like, Nick, this is the first competition we've ever been to where we've worn flip-flops. This is so dope. You should do more of these.
Love it.
How much of a comparison was it to, say, competitive skiing?
It's a good comparison. Blading is blading, as you know, was very popular in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and then experienced sort of this downfall and hasn't really recovered. So it's super underground and super niche. And like the community is like so sick and like just open arms. I thought that going down there and trying to like compete with those guys, like they might get offended. But they were all so cool. And I think part of the reason is like nobody can make any money in that sport, so nobody like has egos, and everybody just is happy to get like more stoke for the sport and more participation. So yeah, it was insane. And like there's some pros down there that I watched growing up that were still down there competing like on the vert ramp, and I was like, holy shit, I was like a kid again.
Oh, that's sick. That's sick. Yeah, we've got a little crew here in Aspen of rollerbladers that were like original. Well, yeah, like they were big time. Well, I guess big time bladers back in the day, and then they all kind of went to skateboards because they got shunned and harassed so hard, I think. But they're in their 30s and 40s now, and they're just like, dude, fuck it. I want to ride what I want to ride. Yeah, I'm gonna skate what I want to skate.
I wonder. Go ahead.
I was going to say skate culture as a whole, how does it compare to ski culture, snowboard culture? I feel like snowboard and skateboard culture are very different. But how is skate compared to ski?
Like rollerblade or skateboard?
Rollerblade. I'm sorry, rollerblade culture.
I mean, they're both kind of, I don't know, like there's not even really a culture for rollerblading in the US anymore. But I think like it's the one thing that I'm not a fan of in action sports is like there's like these stigmas that are real, right? Like kind of like Keith was just talking about, like, dude, going to a skate park on a pair of rollerblades in 2008 or 2007 was like gnarly. Like I mean, it was not fun. People were like, mostly skateboarders and some BMX dudes were like, yo, you're a expletive that I can't say in this day and age, because like you're lame, you're love whatever. And like there's a lot of theories on like how that stigma came to be. But it's like I've always been that kid that kind of did the thing that was a little not as popular. Like people always ask me why I didn't snowboard growing up, and people still ask me. Like they mistaken me for a snowboarder. Like my friends back home are like, "Yo, dude, how's the snowboarding going?" I'm like, "I'm a skier. Thanks." I know, like sometimes I throw up a shaka and say like sick and dope, but not all of us, stand sideways. Some of us actually ride skis down the mountain. and it's like this weird like thing, you know. It's like such an interesting social things, but anyways, yeah, that's like just a side note.
Like the 2008 comparison, I always think of like if I were to go like down to the Bible Belt and like stomp on a Bible or something, that's like the same type of reaction you would have gotten in 2008 or whatever, showing up on blades at a skate park.
Yeah.
Like you would, a lot of the times I remember seeing this growing up where rollerbladers would get essentially rushed by skateboarders, and it was a full-on brawl out of nowhere for just because of what they were, you know, rolling around on. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've always been the guy, I grew up with in that culture of skier versus snowboarder. You know, I'm from Utah where my sport is still banned at 2 mountains, and I've snowboarded both of them, by the way, but I will say I've never had an ounce of tolerance for it, because I was a skier going like, that looks really fun. And as a snowboarder, I was like, I want to still have some of these friends. And I would say I have as many skier friends these days as I do snowboard friends. And like, I just have no tolerance for it. I'm like, it's discrimination at its finest. And take that somewhere else, because it doesn't belong here, you know?
Yeah.
I'm always trying to walk between the tribes.
Yeah, for sure. And like, dude, there are so many skiers that are insane skateboarders, and there's some snowboarders. Like I was hanging out with one today at the top of the pipe. He was a rollerblader when he was a kid. Like he loves it,
Yeah.
and he talks about it all the time. And like, I this probably transcends into other aspects of society, but I hate that like a stigma can prevent you from doing something like super rad and cool that could literally change your life. But like, if it's considered uncool, like, you know, fuck that.
100%. I mean, my other comparison, sorry, Sleepy, it looks like you want to jump in there,
No,
but I was going to
you're
say,
good.
in high school, I mean, I was a band geek and I was a jock, and I was this weird dude that skated also and like snowboarded. And so I walked between so many different tribes in high school. Like, I got along with the jocks. I wrestled, played football, but then I went and played tennis for my third sport. And then I was in orchestras and in marching band and a bagpipe corps. And so I was like this weird anomaly. And then I hung out with all the weird little thrasher kids that like their big thing was ditching school and smoking weed and skating. And I was like, cool, I'm going to hang out with you too, because I like to skate like that, like still going to go to school so I can play sport.
That's probably why we get along, Keith.
I'll tell you what, though,
Dude.
I'm mad that you told us what you played, because I wanted Nick and I to try to guess what you played in band, but I guess we can't now that you're a bagpipe player.
I didn't tell you. I've never played the bagpipes.
Oh,
no.
Okay. So
I was in the corps, but I never played the bagpipes.
I don't know what's in the bagpipe corps.
That's so nerdy, Keith. I can't believe you admit that.
My dad was so anti me wearing a kilt. He was like, my son wears a kilt and wrestles.
Nice.
And I was just like, get out of here. Like, it's cool. Like my high school was the Ben Lomond Fighting Scots in Ogden, Utah. Go Scots, cool. Right? Like, yeah, so we have a bagpipe corps, and the only way for me to learn a certain instrument was to take a beginning class in that. But my dad, so I can say like I kind of owe a lot of that walking between the tribes to him, because my dad, played for the U of O and University of Utah. He was like a middle linebacker. He was a G in football, right? And then, but he also believed in art. And so his whole thing was like, you can play any sport you want. I don't care, but you will have an art. And the day you quit the art, you have to quit sports. And I loved sports. I'm very competitive and enjoyed like camaraderie of teams and all this stuff, right? And I'm active. So, my art was music. And so I was in all kinds of symphonies from pretty much like 5th grade on. I'll give you guys a hint. I played a woodwind instrument in bands. And then obviously I played something else in bagpipe corps. But it was my art.
To be honest, I have no idea. I have no clue anything about it. I'd like to know. I would love to know. And I love the fact that your dad had you doing an art and a sport at the same time. I think that's a critical thing. And, I'd like to implement that with my kids as well. So that's pretty dope, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think... Yeah, thank you. My kid, we just got him. Well, my dad got him like an electric piano / keyboard or whatever for Christmas, and before that, it was a drum set. And the drum set actually is an acoustic drum set, not an electric one. So it kind of got pieced out, but I still believe in the art thing. I think it expands the mind in a way that sports just don't really. And I think it gives people another way of reading. It's another language. It's this whole other universal thing that everybody can kind of relate to. But so in band, I started with the clarinet. I was a clarinetist for a long time. And then I started to get kind of bored with it. I got pretty good at it and was uber competitive. So I always wanted first chair. And from there, I switched over to saxophone. I played a couple different types of saxes. And then loved the bari sax, the bass line of everything. So I went back to clarinet, but played bass clarinet because we had like 3 bari saxophonists. So there was really no point for a 4th one. But we had no bass clarinetist, which was the same part, just on a different instrument. And it sounds so cool. It's like really throaty clarinet. But bagpipe corps, in order to learn, so I wanted to learn how to play the drums, and it was like the one instrument my dad was like, nope. And I understand now why, after having a 4-year-old with an acoustic drum set. It's horrific. But for me to learn the drums, like learn rudiments and everything, the bagpipe corps actually had a beginning drum class. And so I signed up for that as my dad's signature. And then I ended up progressing very quickly and becoming a kilted drummer. And one day I went out the house in a full, I was a kilted drummer, which means I was competing and performing with the bagpipe corps. And I was leaving in my uniform, and my dad was like getting home as I was leaving. I was trying to time it just right, so I was gone before he got there. And he's like, why are you in a kilt and all this other stuff? And I was like, actually, I joined the bagpipe corps. And he's like, you're playing bagpipes? I was like, no, I'm playing the drums. And he's like, I thought I said no drums. And I was like, you did, but I don't care. I want to play the drums. So that's what I'm doing. And, it was such a cool experience, though. We were really, really good, got to compete, went to world championships, competed in both professional and amateur category, won the amateur category out of like 150 bands from around the world, and took 2nd or 3rd in the professional category out of the best in the world. And there was like 350, 400 bands that showed up. So it was a cool experience, man.
I'm so stoked about how excited you are about that. Like, I've never once heard you say anything about being in band or orchestra or bagpipe. I've just never heard that. So I'm stoked on how excited you are. Nick, do you play any instrument, or have you played any instrument?
No, not really. I haven't ever been musically inclined. I always wanted to play percussion. I think drums are sick. I love like metal music, and so the drums are so insane in like rock and metal music. But yeah, I mean, I unfortunately, like, I was one of those kids. Oh, dude, band is so lame, nerds. Fuck, I was one of those kids, unfortunately. So I don't think I ever like really invested myself, and I don't really regret it because I was always like doing sports and stuff. But like my friends who can sit down and pick up and like, play the guitar or do something like that, I'm so insanely jealous and feel so like not included. I'm like, I want to be the one serenading the whole room right now, not you. Like, you're the coolest person here right now.
Well, those campfires
too old. Yeah, the campfires.
The campfires where everybody's having a beer and the guy busts out his acoustic guitar, then all the girls kind of just migrate over to him, and you're like,
dude,
what is the problem here?
I was in Hood this summer with a bunch of half-pipe guys, and there's this Canadian guy named Andrew, and he did that. Like, there were no females there, but we were all sitting around this campfire. He just picked up his guitar and started playing and singing too. And I was like, damn, this is so freaking impressive. And it was so cool. And he was like 20 years old, and and that takes a lot of confidence to sit there and play and sing in front of a bunch of guys, macho dudes. And I thought that was freaking dope. And props.
Bro, you're never too old to learn. YouTube University.
You're right.
I know there's a guitar center somewhere near where you live. Like, I'm sure you could get a guitar on sale or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, Yeah, I love walking between the tribes. I think it's a cool aspect that not everybody has. I know Sleep does, and I know you do as well, Nick. And so, you know, 3 like-minded people in here chatting right now.
Yeah.
Sleep, you got something?
Nah, man, dude, I'm all questioned out. I hit Nick with everything I had, dude. I'm just so stoked that you were able to jump on with us today, Nick, man. Just getting to meet you, hear some of your story, has been impressive, and I can't wait to kind of watch you, you know, go through this next journey, a half pipe, and see what comes out of it, man. We're supporting you. We'll get the Sassy community supporting you. We'll have to get your girlfriend in there, have her join up with us. It's been fun, and we got a lot of cool connections in the industry. So
Yeah, she loves anything that's like formatted or a club or organized. Like, she's asking me how to do a snowboard trick, and I'm like, just go and try it. Like, what do you mean? How do you do it? You just try it. And then she comes back, she's like, so I joined this snowboarding group, Salt Lake City, on Facebook, and I posted in there if anybody has any like documents on how to do my first 50-50. And actually people have responded, and there's some like little instructionals. I'm like, how are we so in love and so opposite?
Opposites attract, right?
Yeah.
Well, we've got coaches in the Sassy community. Just so you know, Sassy is for Sasquatch, because
Cool.
we all love the unprovable. At the end of the day, it seems like everybody's got a sighting or a story. It seems like, but that's like our big mascot, if you will. Yeah, we've got some coaches in there. You know, dude, send her my way. You know, I'll help her out if she wants some. Not like that, Nick. Jeez. You gave me that look like, what did you say? No, I'll help her with some snowboarding if she's down and you're down. I'm always down to
totally.
You know, go rip or whatever, or talk to someone about it.
Just create like a 10-step process that takes 2 weeks on how to do it, and she'll sign up. 100%.
A couple PowerPoints.
Yeah, exactly.
Some videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm like, dude, I'll literally eat shit like for an hour, but I'll learn it in an hour.
She won't crash once, but she'll have every piece of the dynamics from start to finish nailed within 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Well, Nick, how can everybody follow along with you? You know, I mentioned your Instagram. Give them your page and whatever other socials or whatever you want them to follow along on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm mostly active on Instagram, Nick Goepper, at Nick Goepper. I'm probably going to be more active on YouTube in the future, starting this summer. Not on TikTok yet, but yeah, I mean, I'm into showing the journey, and who knows, this might keep on going until it wraps up in Salt Lake 2034. You never know.
Let's go. I'll be there for it. Not as a competitor, but as a spectator of some sort.
Dude, well, we love it, man. Yeah, thank you very much again for coming on. And Keith, dude, wrap us up, buddy.
Yeah, Nick, always a pleasure, brother. When next time you're in town, hit me up. I'd love to grab a coffee or you know, a meal with you. Maybe go take a couple laps as well. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest was Nick Goepper on Thrash Talk. If you like what you're watching, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and enjoy.
All right. Thank you, Sassy Crew. Thrash Talk. See you later.
Later, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.